I'm Tracy Austin, your host of the People Strategy Podcast. This show provides interviews with organizational leaders and ongoing coaching experiences that highlight elevating people in organizations through a people strategy roadmap.
For me, change management is defined in as simple as a way as I can describe it, is preparing individuals within your organization for what is about to be different in their life.
Welcome to the People Strategy Podcast. My name is Tracy Austin, and I am the host today. And today we are going to chat about payroll and change management and all the fun things that go along with that. And as you know, on the People Strategy Podcast, we dive into the latest trends and best practices in talent management and organizational development. And so we're going to talk with industry leaders and HR experts today. Specifically, we are talking with John Bernatovicz. Did I say that correctly?
That's perfectly close.
Perfect.
It's fine.
All right.
And at least you gave it a shot. Most people say John and then they pause, Tracy. It's John Bernatovicz is one of the 10 variations of how you pronounce my last name, but
perfect. Bernatovicz. There we go. We're getting there, right?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about, HR like a boss, payroll like a boss. We're going to chat a little bit about change management today. And one of the things that we love to do is show gratitude to you as our listeners for listening in to us every single week. So thank you so much for coming along on this journey with us for 3+ years now. And also want to thank Brianna Goodwin. Brianna is the CEO of Contexture, and she was on our podcast, in our first year, on becoming an advocate for change within an organization. And so if you have not given that podcast a listen, you're going to notice that the name of her company has changed. And so they've done a ton of change, but an incredible leader, chatting about how to really champion that change as a CEO inside the organization. And so today, our guest, John.
You did it.
Okay.
Pause. Take a shot at it, Tracy. Who cares if you screw it up? I don't care.
Bernatovicz? No, I said it differently this time too.
But Bernatovicz, sure, that's right.
Okay,
Bernatovicz. There we go. Yeah.
Author of HR Like a Boss, does amazing speaking engagements around the country. Our show today is sponsored by the Team Retention Program by Elevated Talent Consulting. And in that program, we're working with mid-level managers that, guess what, John, they're people leaders. And they think that they were just really, really good in their role, and thus were promoted, and then realized they actually have to do something else called manage and lead people. And so this program is all about retaining your key people as a mid-level manager. And the HR folks love this because they're like, I get so frustrated. These managers don't listen to me. And so we're tying those two together with the Team Retention Program. So that is something that is available. And I mean, you never hear about that with your HR bosses, do you, John?
It's so interesting, Tracy, that you say that, because you mentioned the keynote speaking engagements I've had, and it's been an incredible journey. Anyone out there thinking to themselves, I can't write a book, but I want to. I cannot encourage you enough to do it. It changed my life in so many wonderful ways. And one of them is to be able to have this platform to share my story. And I got this great piece of advice from Steve Brown saying, you got to engage and entertain people, but you got to give the HR professionals the how-to. And I wrote this business plan inside of HR Like a Boss, the 5 fundamentals to how you do human resources in an amazingly awesome way. But I go through our presentation, and then I thought to myself at the very end of my talks, I want to give, here are the 2 or 3 things that you must do as an HR leader to transform how people feel at work through the power of human resources and truly make a difference in people's lives. And you know what the number one thing is, Tracy?
What was it?
Just take a guess. You got to make those managers incredible leaders, because they don't know how to do their job. They're going to be the ones that are going to cause your organization either to have great success or to fail, or somewhere in between. And if you're not devoting immense amounts of time, energy, effort, and resources, then you must do it. And hire Tracy and their sponsor partner and all the people that are there to support you, because those managers, they need advice and counsel. They need support. That job is difficult, and you just can't, because you give them the title, mean that they're going to be effective at leading people. Take care of your managers, invest in them significantly.
Yeah. And, Steve was on our show, and I'll link this in the show notes as well, but bringing purpose and passion into our organizations, and really talks about this love for his people leaders and how he goes about doing that. And I think, so much of HR is really about loving on our leaders and ensuring that they have the tools to do their job and do it really well. And I want to kind of shift a little bit here. Willory is your company, and within Willory, I know you focus a lot on tech. You focus very specifically on payroll and HR, thus HR and payroll like a boss. We're giving a little hint nod here. And with that, there's so much that's happening with tech right now. There's so much that's happening with change and what we need to do with change management. I'm curious, and I love you just to riff on AI, change, tech, and loving our people.
Okay.
How's that for the best question ever?
Yeah, exactly. Break it down in 4 bullets.
It's not a question.
So remind me of what the last 2 were, but I'll start with the AI piece. I think it's ingrained inside of technology today. It's something that's part of everything you do as a business leader. You may not know it as far as how the technology has advanced itself. I don't think necessarily that AI is going to put people out of jobs, which we feared a year or 2 ago when ChatGPT and all that did a phenomenal job of branding themselves and putting themselves out there. But I do believe that business leaders that embrace artificial intelligence, they do it in a care and kind manner, meaning not leveraging technology. It's going to discriminate against. It's not going to make biased decisions. We have to be super conscientious of that as HR professionals. But I think the business leaders that leverage and use AI as a tool, if you don't have support, if you don't have an administrator, if you don't have somebody inside of your organization that can help you retool job descriptions or post things on social that you need to drive attention to your jobs page or whatever it might be, artificial intelligence is there to be used to help you do your job more effectively. And number 2, you have to study on the technology partners that you work with to see what type of advancements and use that they're taking on that thing called artificial intelligence and AI. And if you want more insight into that, there's 2 people I'd recommend that you check out. Tim Sackett is a whiz and knowledgeable on these things. Tracy's nodding her head. And then my friend Ben Eubanks.
Tim will be on our show coming up for sure.
Perfect. So Tim can talk all AI in his entertaining, wild way. Maybe give you an appropriate workplace hug at the same time. And then Ben Eubanks. Ben Eubanks is written a couple books about AI and HR. Eubanks is Eubanks. Check him out. He's down from Alabama. Really
also
good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, knows what he's talking about. Check those 2 leaders out from an HR perspective and the impact that AI will have. And then you asked about change. Change was one of those things.
Hang on. Before we jump to this, we
4-part question. I'm just trying to rattle them off to keep.
I know, but I just keep interrupting you within. So yeah, I mean, the whole thing is like, here's our list of 5 things we're going to talk about. But within, you and I met at the HR Unite conference. So Tina Marie's phenomenal of bringing folks together, and there's so much conversation about AI there. And I just listened to a speaker from Lattice talk about AI and HR, and I'm curious. So she listed 5 key things within HR to use AI for: rewriting job descriptions, doing an HR bot internally. So to answer all of those benefit questions that are popping back and forth. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know a friend of mine, Jay Pollock, she owns a company that developed one of those HR bots as well. And I think that's a cool tool and technology. You have to be careful. I know there was a story not too long ago in 60 Minutes where those bots started to make their own informed decisions about things. It ended up it was a wellness platform, and it became dangerous for the constituents that were using that bot. I think that's where human resource professionals have to understand the programming and the dynamics of that technology.
Where it's
definitely rewriting job descriptions is cool. Just be careful about where you put it, because it can become part of a air quote public domain in that sense. My recommendation on it is around sourcing a diverse candidate pool. The main reason why I say that to you is that it's one of the areas that human resource professionals really don't like doing is sourcing. And they have to use all kinds of means and services, like a firm at Willory. We do search and staffing support for clients. But I think recruiting is to me one of, if not the most branded aspect of what a human resource professional does. And you can't really say, I don't like doing recruiting if you're in human resources in a crowd of non-HR professionals. And I think if you can find a way to leverage some sourcing tools to increase your talent pool, not let it make decisions about who you're going to hire, because I think that's really dangerous, but allowing you to source options for you. I think that's one. And then the other one that I really am keen into is there's personalized learning management platforms that are out there, kind of basically like going to Chipotle and ordering exactly what you want on your burrito, as opposed to you go to what traditionally might have been. I think of this as a kid. I used to hate going to McDonald's because I didn't like the onions or the pickles or the mustard on their hamburgers, and they wouldn't make them with just ketchup. Could you just make a hamburger with ketchup? And now they have these platforms that can understand my learning style, how I engage in my and grow from a mindset and leveraging and using my brain to get better. And I think those AI tools inside of that personalized learning platform is important. And then I'll end with one last PS. I think performance management is another major place that HR professionals can really impact a business, is making it abundantly clear what the number one most important thing your individual team members must do to be effective. Do they have the tools, resources to do them well? That number one thing. And then are they celebrated when they do, and are they held accountable when they don't? And I think AI platforms inside of some of those performance management tools can help make that simpler for an HR professional to identify when they're doing it really well or when they're not.
Absolutely. And you hit all 5 of them. So thank you. And with that, I think, one of the things with AI is AI can get you about 80% of the way there, but we have to have a human actually make the decision, which is much of what you just said. And where's the data coming from? So we don't end up in that situation of bad data. Are we pulling it internally from our intranet that we know is truly vetted and is our data, and that's where it's getting those answers from. So amazing. So AI was one. Change management was the second one. And our listeners are going to hear from a good friend of yours next week as we talk about how you supported her and her team through change management. So I'm super curious, first off, how would you define change management?
For me, change management is defined in as simple as a way as I can describe it, is preparing individuals within your organization for what is about to be different in their life based upon some sort of project that you're about to do. And in our world, it's about technology changes. And we have a lot of instances where companies are going from HCM or HRIS system A and they're going to system B. And the number one thing that they do not do as a whole is prepare and plan for change. And that to me is, the simple definition is a preparation and planning and execution of change. Organizations do a better job, not an excellent job at project management when they're making major changes. But I think they drastically underestimate change management. As a matter of fact, we provide a service as a complement to our project management that has a recipe for change. And a lot of the HCM vendors have some really cool resources out there to help and support that as you roll that out. Just a simple example I'll give you is imagine if the first day of a new payroll go live, you did not inform all of your employees that instead of getting your direct deposit ACH notification from X company, you're now going to get it from Y company. And guess what? If by chance that calculation is off by 2 cents, potentially, you could, over 20,000 employees have a 2 cent less paycheck. And then you might sit here and say, oh my gosh, this is 2 cents. Trust me, that's a big deal. They need to know about that. They need to know the name of it. They need to obviously recognize that input or that new vendor that's going to support you. And I think just providing that awareness to your employees and bringing them what to expect is the big thing. Set proper expectations, over communicate it time and again, follow up when you go live and repeat it time and time, because most people aren't paying attention to what you're telling them in the first place with emails and corporate notifications. But long rant on change, just let's make sure that you think about it and you plan for it and you build it out as a part of your project plan, whatever that might be.
And really what I heard throughout all that is build trust with your team through communication.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not doing that, yeah.
Do you like the simplicity of that?
I probably should have said that. It definitely, there's some form of communication that for whatever reason, we just assume people are going to know that we're switching these vendors and everything's going to be okay. And I can tell you, we've done roughly 600 projects in the course of 15 years, almost at Willory. And I've met one client in those 15 years that had a proficient and I'll call it advanced change management strategy, plan, and manager. One out of 600.
Right. And here's the thing with change management, and this is why I was so excited to talk with you about this, is so often we're still doing our day jobs and we're trying to learn this whole new thing at the same time. So internally, can we truly manage the change management process along with learning the new system and along with doing 100% of our day job while still having the trust with our team when, typically by the time we roll something out, we're at like mile marker 99 and the rest of the team's at mile marker 1. And we forget that we have to tell them what's happening between mile marker 1 and mile marker 99.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen that graphic, but my director of consulting talks about this a lot, this J curve of change, in essence, where you go through this process of making a decision to change. And then what ends up happening is that the people that are involved in the change, they go through this very diabolical dip, kind of like you're on this roller coaster of life and you're down in the valley of this project. But your executive team, as soon as you say, I'm changing to a new HCM system, they're already to euphoria. By the time they sign the contract, they basically assume the next day, well, we've got that new system. And there's this gap that exists between the people that have to actually implement and put that system in versus the executives that may have signed off on it, and getting that alignment and getting that togetherness. And if you just think about the teams that are involved in these projects, you've got executives that are supporting it from a financial perspective, signing off on it, maybe being an executive sponsor. Then you have your managers that are involved in the actual rolling it out and the support and impacting their employees. Then you have your project team. Then you have your individual employees. And there's got to be some form of communication to get alignment and clarity to those individuals. And as you said, this level of transparent communication and giving them expectations of mile marker 1 to mile marker 25, what's going to happen everywhere in between.
Yeah. So I want to take our change management process to love and honor people leaders, right? So, John, you are a great doer. We're going to promote you to a manager. But yet we don't do any of the support and the communication of what that actually means to lead our people. And so, this idea of change management with a project, but our people also, it's like, how do we prepare them for that next job? And do they actually know what the real job is?
But rarely
rarely
they do know exactly what a promotion to a manager means. Heard some really cool things. I don't know, general innovation around it, but this idea of shadowing, number one, so shadowing managers, if you have high potential or people within your succession planning that you think have the opportunity to become managers, giving them a chance to do a day in the life. And obviously you have to be careful about what the manager may disclose to them. The other thing I've heard quite a bit is this forum where you get a group of individuals, and let's just say a class of high potential individuals, and you give them access to do a rotation around your key executive team leaders, kind of like something that maybe one of your students might experience when they want to figure out, well, do I want to get into HR? Do I want to get into finance? Do I want to get into sales? We'll give them a chance to sit and hear and have conversation with CEO, CFO. And then the last thing, and this is the part that I think maybe, I don't know if this feels super great to say, but I'm not sure that executives and leaders do a great job of setting proper expectations. I don't think they're all the way honest about what a manager job is all about, because it's really hard. You become you go from being selfish to having to be selfless, and that everything goes in front of you. And I just know when my son arrived in this world 16 years ago, everybody said, okay, we had a dog. We had dogs before. And so we're prepared because we had dogs. Well, actually, no, we weren't. Having a child is significantly different. No disrespect to those who just have dogs or just have children. But what I felt like after about the second week of being a father is that I was asked to prepare for basically a 1 mile walk. And then the day my son was born, they said, oh, hey, sorry, you have to do a 26.2 mile marathon today in 5 hours or less. And then you got to do that tomorrow. And you got to do that the next day. You got to
And
do
we're
that.
going to keep adding things onto it and changing the priorities. And then all the things are going to go wrong at the same time, and you're going to get no help on how to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even think, frankly, even with all the training and all the preparedness, that you can't really feel what it's like until you do it. I think there's some level of understanding that every high performer is not going to become an effective manager. It's two different skill sets.
Absolutely.
And some of the greatest coaches in sports were average at best at their sport, but they're exceptional motivators. They're detail oriented, and they know how to be strategist in a number of different things. You have to really look out for those where individuals are natural leaders, where they have a skill set to be organized. They have clarity in their communication. There's a number of attributes that you can look for. And I think that's part of it when you look inside your organization. What do effective managers look like inside of our company? And do we see others that have that same DNA and that kind of those traits?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we kind of talk through, if you have not picked up John's book of HR Like a Boss, please do. But we kind of hit on some high points here, along with a little teaser into what we are going to chat about next week with change management and what that specifically looks like. So as we start to wrap this up, I have some questions for you. Are you ready, John?
Yeah, I am ready. You've been asking me questions all along. Hopefully I've done okay. Although you did summarize my change management in 3 words or less, which is way better. So I'll try to be more direct.
Why? What's fun about that? But these are fun. These are fun questions. And we ask most of our guests this. So what's on one item on your personal bucket list?
That I haven't done yet? Personal bucket list? I would like to play Augusta Country Club, which is the home of the Masters.
Amazing. And what's one item on your professional bucket list that you haven't done? I know the book was on there.
Yeah, for sure. I think what I'd love to do is I'd like to be opening keynote at a major, I'm talking major national or international conference, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, multiple screens behind you, and rocking HR Like a Boss to that type of crowd. I've gotten about 700 to 1,000 people, which is pretty cool. But I want an opening or closing keynote. That's my goal.
Amazing. Can you combine the Augusta and the keynote together?
I would be if SHRM can do their conference down in Atlanta, and I could go open keynote in the spring and then go play Augusta after the Masters. That'd be awesome.
Amazing. It's one of the things I love to do with each person that we coach is like, what's a personal bucket list and what is that professional one, and can we tie it together? And I think as leaders, when we can get to know our people, both professionally and personally, to tie those together, work is so much more fulfilling. So is that
for
fun?
sure? Yeah, you give them purpose. Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
So do you have any last thoughts or like tidbits you want to pull from our conversation today for our listeners as we say goodbye?
Well, I'll share a couple things, Tracy, if you don't mind. Number one, thank you for your dedication to the HR profession. It's been great to get to know you. Certainly appreciate your passion and having fun today in this informal but formal podcast setting. So keep up the great work and thank you for that. The other thing that I feel like I would like to end with is I cannot encourage individuals who are listening today that maybe there's one person out there. When I wrote my book, I was hoping, can I affect positively one person's life that I hope would then change how they do HR, and then that would have a cascade effect across the people that work within their organization. And the inspiration to write my book came after my parents passed away. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that I did the project, but sad the fact that they didn't get to see it I'll call it in real life. I'm sure they're looking down, being very thankful. And I say that to your audience with this idea of, if you have something burning in your mind, there's something going on that you want to achieve, a personal or professional aspiration, just like you mentioned, a bucket list item, do it. Whatever it is, go do it, and do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. Don't kick that can down the street. Find a way to make it happen. And in the process, be bold in your aspiration. Tell people what you're doing. I've always wanted to do X, and I've waited to do it because of this, but I'm doing it now. And guess what will happen? You'll inspire other peoples to dream big, to have this aspiration. And guess what happens? If you're doing that as an HR professional, others are paying attention to you, and they're wondering to themselves, why is that HR professional so happy at work? Because they found purpose. they're fulfilling their purposeful intention, they're enjoying their work, and they'll think to themselves, well, if they can be happy in HR, well, I can be happy in sales or marketing or whatever role that they're in. That's my closing words. Whatever your dream is, go do it. No more excuses. Be bold and make it happen.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, John. And to our listeners, we will see you next week with an amazing change management story. Have a great week.
Thank you so much for listening today. I'd love to connect with you. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn at Tracy, TRACI Austin, and at our website at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. If you'd love to learn more about our process, please reach out to us. And again, thank you so much for listening and sharing your feedback with us through a review. Have a fantastic day.